Breaking news out of Turin, out of Juventus, out of J Medical. Bremer is injured, a meniscus injury to the same knee he done his ACL on just 12 months ago. Bremer is out for 2 to 3 months, and this is a massive crack in Juventus's defense. This calls for one thing and one thing only. The transfer window is not open anymore, so there's no point of me sitting down and screaming, where are the defenders? There's no point. There's no point. Juventus can't do anything about it. The transfer window is closed. This asks and calls for one thing and one thing only. A tactical change. Tudor needs to do this for his players. Tudor needs to do this for himself. And Tudor needs to do this for Juventus to get results over the line for the next 2 to 3 months without Bremer. Now, let me explain. Now, this is Juventus' current setup under Igor Tudor, the 5-2-3 / the 3-4-3 in possession. This midfield duo of Locatelli, Thuram, and sometimes Locatelli, Koopmeiners, Thuram, Koopmeiners, can't protect this trio in defense of Kelly, Rogani, and Gatti without Bremer. They can't do it. Why? Because the midfield is always outnumbered. Prime example, Juve against Milan in the Serie A before the international break. Rabiot, Fofana, Modric against Locatelli and McKennie. 2v3. Juve's midfield is outnumbered. It was outfought. And they were outran. Let's go into the Champions League against Villarreal once again. Locatelli, McKennie. This is where the problem is. Locatelli and McKennie are actually doing what Tudor is asking of them, which is, I want to press high. If I press high, everybody has to push up. The problem is, and I've mentioned it before, when the midfield pushes up, the defense doesn't. Next thing you know, you got this little island right behind Locatelli, right behind McKennie. Now, on another day, the third midfielder would sit in this island. Okay, let's just think of it as Epstein Island. Okay, this is where the third midfielder would sit. I will sit. I will be the anchor. McKennie, go press. Locatelli, go press. Don't worry. I've got you guys' back. I promise you. One out of those 3 examples that I just showed you guys against Villarreal is what resulted in Villarreal's first goal. Tudor wants to play 2 in midfield. Where the problem is, like, even if you had 2 perfect, like genuinely perfect midfielders, you're asking so much of them to play 2 in midfield. Bearing in mind, the majority of teams across the world play 3 in midfield. You already know I'm outnumbered. How do I make this up? You need to compensate. So if you go into a game knowing I have 2 in midfield and I'm coming up against 3 in midfield, and I promise you guys, some teams don't really play 3 in midfield on paper, but one of the fullbacks inverts to turn it into a 3. You need to outrun them. You need to outfight them. You need to tactically out-edge them. You practically need to give 150% to compensate for being a man down. Let me just repeat that. If you have a 2-man midfield, they have to work triple the amount to compensate for being a man down, because it's always 2v3. I look at Tudor and I look at Juve's midfield and I say, whether Bremer was fit or not, Locatelli, Thuram, that duo doesn't work in a 2-man midfield. Locatelli, Koopmeiners, it doesn't work. Thuram, McKennie, it doesn't work. You don't have 2 complete all-action midfielders. What do I mean by all-action midfielders? Midfielders that can genuinely just do it all. They can break play. They can progress play. They can help the team off the ball. They can help the team on the ball. They're in the right place at the right time. They're technically so gifted, physically so gifted, mentally so gifted. No. If we were to look down and say, okay, Locatelli physically is not the most gifted. He's not. Thuram, for me, is a player that shines the most in the opposition half. They're not complete midfielders. Don't put them in a role where they're outnumbered and you're now asking them to do something they don't have the skill set to do. And I promise you guys, throughout the season, this is why Juventus get outrun in midfield. This is why Juventus, towards the end of games, are fatigued. I look at football like this. Your attackers are supposed to protect your midfielders because they play ahead of them. Your midfielders are supposed to protect your defenders. Why? Because they play in front of them. Your defenders are supposed to protect your goalkeeper because they play right in front of them. The problem is this 2-man midfield can't protect a 3-man backline without Bremer. Funnily enough, they couldn't protect them even with Bremer. Even with Juve's best centre-back, Locatelli and Thuram was not good enough to help them out. And because of that, Tudor needs to change it up. I said at the beginning of the video, he needs to do it for one himself. Like, let's be real. Sympathy is not going to win him points. Fair enough, we can turn around and say, what if Juve actually got him a midfielder in the summer? What about if Juve actually got him a centre-back? yeah, bro, we can't go back in time. We can't go back in time. Sympathy doesn't keep you in a job. Results. This is the period where Tudor has to earn his bread and butter. Every coach faces forms of adversity throughout their career. Your best player might get injured. Your best player might get sold to generate some revenue. You might have a falling out with your best player. Your best player gets suspended for headbutting the linesman. I don't know. You need to adapt. And I'm looking at Juve this season and I'm saying this whole 3 in attack with 2 in midfield. Like, look, these are a few examples that I've picked up so far this season. 3 in attack, 2 in midfield. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in midfield. It doesn't work in terms of protecting the defense. You need to switch to a 3-man midfield. In order to switch to a 3-man midfield, you've got one of 2 options. One, you go to a 5-3-2. Okay, you go to a 5-3-2, which means you sacrifice one of the attackers. And let's call a spade a spade. Juve at the moment are playing 3 in attack and they're struggling to score. Like, let's not turn around and say, oh, if we sacrifice a third attacker, output will reduce. Brother, there is no output. Like, there's no output on a consistent of basis. You either go to 2, and I promise you, an extra player in midfield will actually help you to control games, help you to stay in games, help to protect your midfield. And funnily enough, it will actually help the attacking plays because now you've got an extra layer of protection, an extra layer to progress play. So you either go to a 5-3-2. All my hopes are on Miretti. I'm being completely honest with you guys. Cup Miners, I would be a genuine liar if I told you guys I had any stocks in Cup Miners. I'm done with Cup Miners. Like, I've seen enough. The sample size is large enough. Cup Miners is on the chopping board this time next summer. He's out of Juventus. My hopes are on Miretti. My hopes are on Miretti. That loan at Genoa last season, working under Patrick Vieira. The boy went from a boy to a man. Let's hope and pray he can walk in and have an impact. You either go 5-3-2, or if he's adamant, like if Tudor is genuinely adamant on, no, I don't want to sacrifice an attacker and I want to continue playing with 3-4 players in attack, then brother, you go 4-3-3. You go 4-3-3, you go 4-2-3-1. You need 3 in midfield. Regardless of the backline, you need 3 in midfield. A game is won and lost in midfield. Juventus at the moment, we might sit down and watch games and say, Kalulu, mistake. Gatti, mistake. I promise you, why are the opposition getting so close to Juve's backline? Like, you have to ask yourself that question. We can turn around and look at, like, the final piece of the jigsaw, which is, Gatti in the wrong place at the wrong time. But why are the opposition so comfortably getting in and around 25, 30 yards of Juve's goal? Why? The midfield can't protect them. The midfield are basically holograms. You know what? I should have just said this at the beginning of the video. Juve's midfield at the moment are a duo of holograms, okay? They need an extra player to help them out and also to help them preserve their energy. Like, 3 in midfield means you have to run for 1 man, but 2 in midfield means you guys now have to split the load of an extra midfielder. Tudor needs to change it up. He really, really, really does. If he sticks with this 3-4-3, in my opinion, I feel like he's automatically just putting his name on the chopping board. And I promise you guys, I know some people like to just look at the table and say, oh, Juve are unbeaten. Oh, Juve are in the top 5. Trust me, sometimes the league table can be very, very, very deceiving. And I feel like if Tudor sticks with this 3-4-3 without Bremer and continuing to play 2-man in midfield, there's going to come a period in the season where the performances begin to reflect on the scoreline. And that's when his name will be on the chopping board. Change it now before it's too late, in my own humble opinion. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on another one.